The other breaking story this Wednesday afternoon out of rural Virginia, where this train carrying members of Congress onto their legislative retreat in West Virginia hit this garbage truck as it was rolling along, and the impact, we're told, tossed lawmakers out of their seats, left one person dead. Let's go live to Senator Jeff Flake speaking right now.
The road came in, almost parallel to the tracks and then turned across, and it wasn't clear which way the truck was turned at that point. There was an eyewitness as soon as I got off the train who was telling me the truck was right on the track. There was just no way that the train could stop at that time. It looked like it came just kind of out of, I don't know if it was over a hill or whatever, but there certainly wasn't time. We were moving at a pretty rapid pace, and it didn't seem that there was any time for the train to slow down at all. I didn't feel any slowing before the impact.
There was no braking before?
If there was, I didn't feel it. It certainly wasn't much.
So was it a sense that the truck was trying to beat the train?
Perhaps, or maybe it got halfway across and had a malfunction of some type. We just don't know. It seemed to have, the impact was on the, behind the cab, it seemed, and it separated the back part from the chassis and the cab. I think the one that of the three who survived best was probably in the cab. If you looked in the cab, you could see you could probably survive in there. But if you're back on the truck, like typically people assisting with garbage yard, then that was the full impact there.
How close to the front of the train were you?
I would just 3 or 4 cars. So I think the closer you were, the more of an impact there was. It did derail the engine car, but it still took us a while to stop. It probably, like I said, I moved back about 10 cars. It took about that long to stop the train, even with the front car derailed. So we were moving at a pretty high rate. So I don't think it was dangerous, or certainly not above any limit that's supposed to be there. It just couldn't stop.
With me now, another lawmaker who was on that train actually tweeted out images of the deadly crash. He is Oregon Congressman Greg Walden, joining me by phone. Congressman, my goodness, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, and I think most people on the train were fine. As you heard from Senator Blake, if you were standing up or not holding on to something, you ran a risk. It was a sharp impact. Unfortunately, the train remained upright and came to a stop as good as they could. I mean, our prayers are with the families, involved, and on the garbage truck itself. It was ripped apart, garbage strewn around a grassy area between the tracks and the road, and I just, it's amazing impact. It's a 10-car train with an engine on either end. So they disconnected the locomotive on the front and taken us back to Charlottesville, where we're now just boarding buses, literally right now, to continue on to our planning retreat.
Got it. So you're heading off on buses on to the Greenbrier. Taking me back, though, a little bit this morning, Congressman, how far into the train trip did this happen, and what did it feel like? What did it sound like?
It was a sharp enough impact that you realized something had happened. I'll tell you, I've never been in one of these. I was in the news business and I've covered train derailments before when they've gone off the tracks. This one remained on the tracks. And, it was a sharp hit. Everybody looked around and went, what happened? And then you knew you'd hit something or something that's broken. And we were coming to a controlled stop. And then I looked out the window to my left, and in this field next to the tracks, that was down probably 20 feet or so, you saw garbage all over and the remains of the rear end garbage truck. And then as you began to look forward, you could see the tractor part of the truck had separated. There was a pole there that I think it got blown, whipped around as well. It's just a horrible, horrible tragedy. It was a gated crossing, I might add, and
right.
The gates appeared to be in use and were not damaged based on what I saw. And so investigators will figure out what happened here, but it's a terrible tragedy for the families involved.
We'll talk about the truck in just a second, but can you just describe, I mean, from what I understand, the folks in Congress, for the most part, no serious injuries. Can you describe the worst that you've seen?
Well, I know one of my colleagues hit his head, but with a little ice, he's fine. A couple other, I think, just out of extreme caution, were taken to the hospital with neck and head injuries. You know how it is if you've ridden on one of these trains. You need to hold on to something when everything's going right, and when you get a sharp impact and a jolt, it sent members and whoever else that were happen to be walking around or just standing and talking. It sent them into the nearby table or chair or whatever. So there are those kinds of bumps and bruises, I would say, and hopefully nothing more than that.
One more quick one, Congressman Walden, and that is, we had heard that Congressman Sean Duffy, his wife, his kids were on the train, and so my thought immediately went to, my goodness, were other children involved, and are they okay?
Yeah, and that's a really important point, because families can come on this trip, and so there are little kids and family members, spouses. And that's why I think, especially for the kids, it makes sense to try and get back to normal sooner and proceed. I think for them, a lot of young kids, young kids, in some cases, even a baby or two coming with the families. And so I think it's important, while we keep in our thoughts and prayers those who have been injured or loss of life, that we also need to think about these kids and make sure that we get back to normal for them.
Our thoughts and prayers as well here. Congressman Greg Walden, thank you so much for jumping on the phone, and just safe travels in that bus on to West Virginia. Thank you so much, sir.